I'm Kevin, and I'm not childish. I'm at a higher level of immaturity. So, how do we satisfy women? Well, this is not going to be about my sexual experiences, um, but that is part of what we'll discuss, I guess. And it's not really going to have the exact answers, but it's what I've experienced through my life and what I've had to learn about the relationship between men and women. And I'm not saying it's really correct. I'm saying it's what I've experienced. So I was born 1957. Things were starting to change, and unbeknownst to everybody, quite dramatically. And I'm talking about the relationship between men and women. Although there had been times in the past, obviously, and I'm talking about the early 1900s and things like that, when women got to vote. And of course, at those times, at least it seems that men were quite abusive, in not as a whole, but that got a lot of news, and men did not have the respect for women, which of course helped key this whole thing that has now, changed our country and quite a bit of the world. Quite a bit, it has changed it quite a bit. So when I was growing up, and I'm talking about in the 60s, I had basically three examples. I had my one grandmother my grandfather had already died before me. I had my other grandmother, who was the second wife of my other grandfather, and his first wife had died. And then I had my mother, who was a stay-at-home mom, but a very hard-working person, and clearly more than just a provider of food and clean clothes. But in all that, it appeared that the man, had the role of the breadwinner, and he had the control of the household. So that is how it appeared. Then as I got into school, well, of course, I watched the stupid relationships between boyfriend and girlfriend and how they would cheat on each other and lie and then want to get back together, and it just didn't make any sense to me. Of course, lucky or unlucky, I couldn't get a girlfriend, so I was on the sidelines just watching, and I didn't understand. I also thought that sex was for the man, that the woman only gave it to him because she cared about him, that it wasn't of any importance to her. Then, in I guess probably ninth grade, I had, I had health class, which is basically sex ed, really, but they called it health. And I found out women have orgasms. I thought, whoa, what the hell? I can't believe this. And so as I started pondering that, I thought, well, then why don't women look at men like men look at women? I mean, men are looking at the big tits and the nice ass, and sometimes they, wouldn't In other words, they needed an attractive face as well. But, pretty much anything with two legs that professed to be female was all that they needed when it came to their sexual satisfaction. And it seemed like the women that either put out because they wanted to show their love for him, or they put out because they wanted to feel love from someone, which I didn't quite grasp that need for a relationship. So I'm thinking about that, and guess what? Nowadays, it appears women do look at men the same way men look at women. The men have got to have the six-pack, they got to have a nice tush. They want a tall guy, lots of muscles, beautiful, clean face, all physical. And women look at that more and more. Also, of course, along this time came feminism, where females wanted equal, in the workplace, they wanted to be treated as equals and get paid equal. Now, that seemed to make sense to me. I mean, if they do the same job and they do it equally well, they're absolutely, and that there's no other issues, fine. However, I have come to the conclusion there are other issues. But that's part of our men's problems as well, because we help screw this thing up. They wanted these equal pay and all because more of them are in the workforce. And they're looking at men the same way now that men are looking at women. And it didn't add up to me. Didn't make a lot of sense how this all took place. So now we're in the 70s, and I'm getting ready to head off to college, and I'm thinking, well, now, if women have orgasms, then they want to be satisfied as well. So through some experiences at college, which I won't go into at this point, I set, you might say, a goal of satisfying the woman that I'm with. And really, it came to be a thing that if I couldn't enjoy myself if I didn't satisfy them. So it seemed to make a lot better relationship for both of us. But then I started thinking about my grandmothers and my mother and how they seem to be in the background compared to women of the day that I was dealing with, and I noticed that the more I tried to satisfy a woman outside of sex, the less interest they had in me. And I had quite a few examples, at least in my opinion. There are quite a few. And I didn't get it. Why were they satisfied with life, or so it appeared? And one night I was having an argument with my wife at the time, and my grandmother was there and my mother was there. And I said, Grandmother, did you ever have, arguments like this, and, did Grandpa ever, let, in other words, did you ever not agree with him and all? And I said, how did you handle it? And she says, oh, I just let him think that he was right. And then it hit me. Part of why my grandmothers were satisfied is they were a very big part of the two of them succeeding in accomplishing what they were doing. Yes, the husband had the ultimate decision, but the wives knew that they played just as big a part. And my mother certainly was that type of person as well. She didn't say a lot, when my father was ranting about something, but probably more often than not, what needed to be done was done, not what my father necessarily wanted. Now I realize my mother gave in too. Both of them were adjusting, but the way they looked at it, my father was sort of like a Japanese person that doesn't want to lose face. And so my mother treated him in such a way that he didn't lose his masculinity or his pride. And I see that that's how it was with the others. And it's kind of interesting because I read the Bible. I'm a Christian, if you hadn't guessed. And it talks about a perfect wife, if you will, in Proverbs. And she owns her own property. She makes money, runs businesses and all, but she also takes care of the house and makes sure that her husband is never looked down on because of the way she has treated him. I know that may not seem like the best thing, but it was pretty interesting. So what am I getting at here? Can men really satisfy women? No. So men, I tell you what, you're not going to satisfy them. And women, you shouldn't be looking towards a man to satisfy you. And really, you're not going to find satisfaction out in the workplace. It's very unforgiving, and I don't want to, pigeonhole, but women and men are different, and we should embrace those differences rather than complain about them. And so what I've come to the conclusion is, if we can find a mate that has the values and the understandings of how we were meant to be, and I'm going to say this, how God wanted us, we work to satisfy each other. We play to satisfy each other. When we're, building a family, or we acknowledge each other's strengths, and so that both of us prosper. And of course, in bed, if we take and have the goal of satisfying the other person, couldn't ask for anything better than that. So, thanks for listening to me. Catch you on the flip side.